I'd like to provide a brief update of the OIS Index, an ophthalmic industry stock market index, which we introduced this past October at the OIS at AAO as a tool to track the investment performance of publicly traded small cap and mid cap growth stocks in the ophthalmic industry. The index is market cap weighted with limits. Companies are capped at no more than 10% of overall index value. We are updating and rebalancing the index on a quarterly basis. There are now 32 companies in the index, up from the original 29. And essentially, the index has maintained a 70-30 split between ophthalmic biopharma and ophthalmic device companies in valuation. We launched the index on October 1st with an initial value of 1,000. And as of the end of April, just a few days ago, the value of the index stood at 888. So a decline of about 11% over the 7 months since inception of the index. Now, it's typically more informative to look at relative performance of any stock index or sector index, more so than absolute performance. And unfortunately for the OIS Index, so far, relative performance paints an even more negative picture. If you look at the blue line on this chart, which represents the OIS Index, since October 1st, the index has underperformed not only the overall U.S. stock market, but also the most relevant medical device and biotech market indices. The good news is that most of the underperformance was concentrated during a fairly brief period of time in December and January. And if you look at performance of the index over the past 3 months, the OIS Index has actually outperformed both the overall U.S. stock market and the NASDAQ Biotech Index. Now, anytime you have a stock market index with a relatively small number of names, and particularly one that's heavily weighted in early-stage biotech stocks, singular events are going to have a big impact, and that's clearly what we've seen so far with the OIS Index. There are 3 events that we can identify that accounted for nearly all of the underperformance relative to the NASDAQ Biotech Index since we started the index. The most impactful of these was the announcement in December by Optotec of disappointing phase 3 results in the Fovista trial. Shortly thereafter, actually on the first trading day of 2017, Inotech announced disappointing clinical trial results for trabedenosone. And also during the last part of 2016, Clearside Biomedical had a financing event that had an outsized negative impact on index valuation. On the positive side, I wanted to highlight some of the names that drove the greatest positive impact on the index. Those were Omeros, Carl Zeiss Meditech, and Glaukos. And there were several other companies that were large percentage gainers, but had less weight in the index, so didn't have as much of an impact. And those were Ocular Therapeutics, Opthea, Nicox, Molecular Partners, and Aerie Pharmaceuticals. Now, in the interest of being forward-looking and not just focusing on the rearview mirror, I wanted to highlight a few events coming up over the next 6 months, which could have an impact on the index, hopefully to the positive side. As Jonathan pointed out earlier today, Ocular Therapeutics has a PDUFA date on July 19th for Dextenza. Nicox actually has 2 back-to-back PDUFA dates in late August and early September on a couple of key pipeline products. And Spark Therapeutics could potentially get an FDA decision on its product for inherited retinal disease, but that's more likely to come after the first of the year. We invite your feedback and welcome any comments you may have on the index. Feel free to get in touch with me, with Craig Seamack from OIS, or with Emmett, who's been actively involved in this project as well. Thank you.